Hi Pisces, welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for September of 2019. This month there's a lot of relationship activity. Many planets gathered together in your seventh house of love and partnership, and over the course of the month they're going to shift over into your eighth house of intimate, deeper relating, bonding, and sexuality. And here to start talking about it is Julia with some stuff about Mercury. What's up, Julia?
Hey, Jamie, and hey, Pisces. So, Mercury is going to start in your seventh house for the first half of the month. And the seventh house is about partnerships of all kinds, especially romantic partners. So, you can have some really fruitful conversations regarding your relationship. And there's also going to be a greater epiphany day on the 2nd of September, and that's when Mercury is moving its fastest. So, you can really, it's just a great time for any type of one on one conversations, whether it's romantic partner, business partner, or, any type of dyad that you're involved in. And the seventh house is also about consulting relationships as well, like if you need to consult with a lawyer or a doctor or a therapist. So this can be also a really great time for that. Then after the 14th, Mercury is going to be moving into your eighth house. That's the house of shared resources, security, intimacy. So you could be having more deep and heavy conversations with your partner, or talking a lot about how you guys want to pool your resources together. I know Natha has some things to tell us about Venus and Mars this month as well.
Yeah, hi Pisces. So we're going to start off talking, excuse me, a little bit about Mars. Mars is going to be in your seventh house all month, and it's going to be in the sign of Virgo. So, Virgo likes to be helpful. Virgo likes to really be of service. And so you might find that you are wanting to really show up and do things for the people in your life that you love, in your intimate partnerships. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to just be mindful of your motivations, because if you're doing it to seek their approval, you might end up overextending yourself. And if they don't approve of you, or if they don't respond to you and give you something in return, then you'll start to feel unbalanced, and Mars in Virgo can get a little bit crabby. So just make sure that, it's great to show up and be there for the people that you love, but make sure that things stay balanced. And similar to what Julia was talking about, we have something called a heroic epiphany day happening. And that is when Mars conjuncts the sun and come together. And that's happening on September 3rd. And that's going to give you an extra burst of energy, of really, you'll be able to be super active. So, use that. Maybe schedule some time with your partner or with somebody that you're wanting to be in relationship with, and go do fun things with them, and really make the most of this energy. It's a great energy for doing stuff. So figure out what it is that you want to do. And then in terms of Venus, Venus is going to be in your seventh house to begin with, in the sign of Virgo, and then later it's going to move into the eighth house and move into the sign of Libra. But while it is in the seventh house, I think that you're going to like the way that feels. That's a very creative energy, and you might even feel like you're wanting to look particularly beautiful. Seventh house is very aesthetic in general, and so break out your favorite clothes and really sort of do that Pisces thing where you just are soft and beautiful and glowy. Do be careful of idealizing, though, of course. And let's see, when it moves into the eighth house in the sign of Libra, eighth house, Venus in the eighth house, that is fun. That can be super spicy, and it can be a really good time to get imaginative. Use some of that Pisces imagination that you have, and try new things in your sex life. And I think that things can be really exciting for you in terms of that. Mm-hmm. I know, Jamie, you have more for us.
Yeah, I just wanna throw a little note in here that there's another video that we have in our September 2019 news playlist that has to do with Mercury and Mars and their epiphany days. The greater epiphany day for Mercury, the heroic epiphany day for Mars, and you can find out a lot more about those and why the beginning of September is such a great time for being effective, efficient, moving projects along, getting things untangled. So check that out for more, details about those things. And we've got a couple of moons that I want to show you. There is a beautiful harvest moon happening on the 13th. The harvest moon is what we call the full moon that happens during Virgo. And that means a moon in Pisces. So it's a very dreamy moon. It's a very fertile moon, which doesn't have to mean that you should, go crazy on your contraception, but it can be fertile for the imagination as well. That a full moon always means moon and sun are opposite to each other in the sky. So they don't just really speak to a single sign like the one where the moon is, but really an axis, a pair of signs. So this particular axis has to do with the hustle and bustle of Virgo, the handling of all the details, the perfectionism, the fast-moving nature of Mars, and all of that being balanced by the dreamy, introverted softness and gentleness of Neptune and the moon in Pisces. Together they're in your first house, Pisces rising. So this month, as Natha was saying, be cautious about how much you might bend yourself to the care of the people that you view as partners, and how much you might, listen to their opinions of you and their judgments of you. And when this harvest moon comes along on the 13th, and really you'll probably feel it a day or two ahead of time and a day or two after, is a really good time to just, take a little break, step back from the world, go into your introverted place that you like so well, and get a little R&R. So a little oasis there around the harvest moon. Another thing that's coming up shortly after that is that Saturn is going to be going direct, and you can see right here that Saturn is retrograde. The little red RX symbol means retrograde. Saturn has been retrograde for several months, because Saturn is all about discipline and structure and career and working hard, really knuckling down and doing what you're supposed to do. When Saturn turns direct, there's a bit of an easing off on that. And if things have been kind of tangled up and you've been feeling under a lot of pressure, but the pressure hasn't really had anywhere to go in the last several months, then at this point, that could find its release valve. That is coming on the 18th, and right there it is, Saturn direct. It falls in your 11th house of friends, networks, communities, people of like mind, your tribe. So if you've been feeling limited or constricted or restricted, or like, oh, I'm supposed to take responsibility in your friendships or your community, this could ease that. And wouldn't that be nice? Especially because Pisces, you can get tired sometimes. And so all that giving that you do, it's awfully nice to get some relief. The next thing I want to show you is that Jupiter has been squaring Neptune this year, since the beginning part of the year, and the final pass is finally coming on the 21st. Here's Jupiter in your 10th house of career, Pisces. Isn't that nice to know about? Square Neptune in your first house. So Neptune in your first house can make you kind of sleepy, kind of dreamy, but also kind of visionary. And it can really sort of take you out of the world sometimes. And I want to let you know this is a long-term transit. Neptune's been passing through your first house for some years, and it's probably got some years to go. I wouldn't know exactly how much unless I actually had your chart in front of me, and then we could get very precise about that. Jupiter similarly is passing through your 10th house of career, but much faster, spending about a year there and bringing all kinds of career luck down on your head. So this is definitely the time for growth and expansion in your career. And there are probably opportunities around you all the time that maybe you should be taking advantage of. When it comes to this square between Jupiter and Neptune, though, the name that I've had for this transit is mass delusion, because when these two get together in a square, nobody's stopping anybody else. They're both expansive in their nature, and so it's really hard to keep your feet on the ground. You can find yourself dreaming dreams and then blowing them up bigger and bigger and bigger, and so this year has been a time for quite a bit of opinionated zealotry and hopes and wishes and dreams that just seem to be pie in the sky. And after this transit is over, which is to say after September is done and we're moving deeper into the fall and into the winter, and even more so as the year comes to a close, this influence really fades. And we find that we begin to settle back down on the ground. We're feeling more anchored, more centered, and not quite so prone to pie in the sky ideas. The last thing I want to show you is a new moon in Libra, and that is happening on September 28th. And so that involves the sun and the moon meeting up in a conjunction right here in your 8th house of intimate relationships. So Natha talked about Venus moving into this 8th house and how that can be wonderfully sexy and charming, and it can bring such a lovely sweetness to your deeper relationships, the ones where you're really bound up together with another person or an entity, meaning the relationships where you share monies together, or even your relationship with the IRS, right? And one thing that occurred to me when talking about the 8th house is that, this is the time of year when we're facing another tax deadline. Not everybody utilizes it, but if you have to defer your tax payments, filing, people would usually defer it to October. So this could be a great month in which you sort of clean up anything to do with taxes before those deadlines are due, and really well before those deadlines are due. So that could be really helpful and enable you to, sort of go back to R&R, which is really the best sign of life, isn't it, Pisces? So there you have it. That's our horoscope for you. And if you wanted to get a reading this month, I would recommend a relationship reading, because all these planets moving through your houses of relationship, of intimacy, of deep bonding, there really couldn't be a better time to sort out your communication and get to know your partner in a deeper way. And there's nothing like a lifelong love reading or a couples reading from Pandora Astrology to effect just that. So that's what we've got for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you around the cosmos. Check our horoscope next month. Bye.
Bye.